Hey guys, my name is Mischka. In today's part 2 video, I'll be making the upper half of the PJ set, which I started in the last video. I'll be using the same bed sheet and it's gonna be a button-down shirt with short sleeves. I hope you find this tutorial helpful and that you also have fun sewing along. Let's get started. Instead of using a pattern, I chose a loose-fitting men's t-shirt as my reference. Before tracing around it, I folded the t-shirt in half. I didn't add any seam allowance yet to my pattern. I'll be using the same pattern that I'm making right now for both the front and back panels. The only thing I changed was the neckline. The back neckline sits a little higher and I marked this with a dotted line. When cutting out the front panels, I added 5 centimeters or 2 inches to the inside of the panel. This extra fabric will give us space for the buttons and the seam allowance. I then marked out where the extra fabric for the buttons and the seam allowance should be and folded it back and then pressed it. Next, I overlocked and sewed the pieces down on both sides. For the back panel, I used the same pattern as before but flipped the fabric over in the middle so I could trace a mirrored version of the first half. Then I joined the back and front pieces by the shoulder seam. To make the sleeves, lay out the shirt onto a piece of folded fabric. Make sure the fold is in line with the slanted angle of the shirt. Trace around the armhole, leaving some seam allowance below the armpit. Unfold the sleeve and match up the center to the shoulder seam of the shirt and then start pinning them together. Make sure you have the good sides facing. You might not be able to tell, but I've got the wrong side facing up here. Next, I pinned and sewed together the sides, starting with the sleeves and working my way down. For a nice finish, I serged the seam, removing excess fabric along the way. To finish off the sleeves, I overcast the ends. I'd recommend using an iron to make this easier. To make the collar, I first measured the length of the neckline. Mine was about 50 centimeters or 19.5 inches. Then I measured the width of the center band where the buttons will be, which was about 3.5 centimeters or 1.4 inches. The length of the neckline minus the length of the center band will give us the length of the collar. For the width of the collar, I went for about 6 centimeters or 2.5 inches. Cut out 2 pieces, place them on top of each other, good size facing, and then fold it in half. To give the collar a pointy look, I cut off a small triangle at the ends. Then I sewed together the sides and top half, leaving the bottom half open. I turned the collar so the right side was facing out and pressed it nice and flat. Next, I made a mark where the center back of the neckline is. I also folded the collar in half and marked where its center point is. Match up these 2 center points and pin the collar to the neckline. Afterwards, I made a top stitch around the top of the collar just so that it stays flat. For the inner lining of the neckline, I measured the entire length of the neckline and cut out a rectangle piece with a width of about 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Then I serged the sides and overcast them. Pin the lining around the neckline. The collar is behind it, but that's fine. The lining will cover the seam of the collar once we flip it over, which is exactly what we want. I also gave the lining its shape by folding the sides inward like this. After sewing the lining to the neckline seam, I overcast the other side of the lining. With that done, I press the lining so it's folded downwards. Last but not least, I made a top stitch all around the top so that the lining and the collar both sit nice and flat. Then I picked out a few buttons and decided where to place them on the shirt. To finish off, I just hemmed the bottom seam of the shirt, and then we were basically done. Thank you so much for tagging along. If this video was helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.